Hello, we are live. Welcome to episode 3. Time is just flying by. This is Hilary LeBlanc, and I am the host of com.unity by MODECANADAROCKS. We are so excited this week to be discussing nostalgia and nation building. This week's episode considers how Canada has presented itself to the world and the role style plays in shaping that narrative. This week's guests, we are joined first by Makenzie Morgan. She is a multi-hyphenate creator working at the intersection of music, education, and community. She is the Director of Community Partnerships and Programs at the Canadian Opera Company, where she leads impactful initiatives that expand access to the arts through equity-driven, community-focused work. Outside of her role at the COC, Makenzie is passionate about building inclusive and positive communities through creating authentic, culturally responsive, and engaging experiences at the.morganproject.ca. We are also joined by Shaun Mascarenhas, a designer who brings together formal training and a rich tapestry of lived experience to create Mascarenhas' distinctive, gender-neutral, demi-couture designs. Deeply influenced by his upbringing in Bangalore, India, Shaun's work is grounded in cultural heritage. Watching his mother drape saris sparked a lifelong appreciation for draping, which is now a signature of his design language. With sustainability central to his practice, he reimagines vintage saris into contemporary demi-couture pieces, merging heritage with modern elegance. Last, but certainly not least, we also have GRAE, who is a Toronto-based singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist crafting new wave pop that blends nostalgia with a modern edge. Influenced by 80s icons like The Cure and Joy Division, alongside singer-songwriter greats like Rodriguez, GRAE creates a rich mix of atmosphere and emotional depth. With over 15 million, that's with an M, streams, a growing social following, and placements on shows like Nancy Drew, The Bold Type, and Virgin River, she's quickly becoming a standout voice in alt pop entirely on her own terms. Awesome. So excited to have these 3 wonderful guests here. Here they're all popping onto the screen now. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having such a good day.
Hey, everyone.
Makenzie, I want to start with you. Being in the role of community partnerships for the Canadian Opera Company, your work ensures that many audiences see the opera, whether they are BIPOC communities, underrepresented communities, and ensure the low barrier cost of the COC, which is sort of how I became, a part of the audience of the opera, was that idea that anyone can attend, which is so wonderful to see. How does your work bring new eyes and a new idea of the opera to Canadians who might have a different perception of what the opera is and if it's even for them?
Yeah, I think I have a very unique role and a very unique perspective when it comes to opera. Growing up singing and growing up, singing classical music, I can remember every time there was more than a person that looked like me in that room. And so for me, it was really important that I was able to bring opera to communities that haven't always been recognized or haven't always been, centered as a major group. And so a lot of the work that we do in the Community Partnerships and Programs Department really focuses on that, whether it's through free community programming, reduced tickets for student dress rehearsals. A lot of the initiatives that we have are connected to not only the main stage, but sort of real strategic efforts to bring people in through, whether that's through our showcase series, teen council. We do try and reach a broad range of demographics. So right from little ones, summer camp, and summer intensives where they create their own operas or create their own stories, really just finding pathways and providing access for people to explore what opera is. Because I think people sometimes think, well, it's just, the singers on the stage, and that's sort of what it is, when really it's so much more than that. It is not just about the music, but it's about the art. It's about the set, the design, the makeup, the hair. All of those elements have to come together, almost in perfect sync in order for it to sort of be produced on what you see on the stage. So I'm really lucky in terms of the team, and it does take a team of people. It does take community of people. It does take relationship building and taking the time to understand what the communities need. I always like to say we really pride ourselves on being culturally relevant. You know, when I started, I've almost been at the COC for 6 years, and this role I sort of started in this role. I'm the first director of this department, and I remember the first 6 months just connecting with people and saying, "What do you need? Where are the gaps? Where do you feel like you're not being seen? If you're not, you know, particularly comfortable just like going to a 3-hour opera, what are some other ways that we can, you know, sort of have that, make that connection, and introduce music?" And so, you know, with our work in the schools and communities as well, I hope that we're able to sort of show that there's a broad range, and even outside of music, but also like for job opportunities as well. You know, someone has to be able to regulate these things. Someone has to be able to be in charge of, you know, all of the aspects that I had discussed in terms of the, you know, set and design and things like that. So I think it's a lot bigger and a lot broader and a lot more inclusive than people might realize if it's something that they haven't necessarily grew up with.
100%. I find that so fascinating that you said that, because I was just thinking about the fact that you can be a makeup artist somewhere, and then maybe your trajectory will land you doing makeup for the opera or costume design or set building. Like, there's so many opportunities to be a part of it, and so many hands working behind the scenes that I was with some of your colleagues, ironically, today, but I was asking about that because I find the behind the scenes so fascinating of it in terms of that, and that idea that it's accessible for everybody, because you can be behind the scenes, you can be sitting and enjoying it, and, you know, you have programming during the day, during the evening. I remember I think one of the first operas I saw was the Black opera about Portia White, a Portia Cryptic. And so it was so lovely to see the celebration of a Black Nova Scotian woman in a Toronto stage and setting. So kudos to the opera for dismantling that idea, which I will say, I believed that the opera was sort of a stuffy white person thing, and it is not that at all. That is a Hillary opinion, and I'm glad to see that it is not that, that it's so much more. Shaun, you have designed for years, and you've lived around the world. You were reminding me recently of your time in Nigeria, because I forgot that you'd ever been to Nigeria. And you've worked under greats like Oscar de la Renta and Zach Posen. I'm curious if you would call yourself a Canadian designer, and if the geolocation of where you are means anything to your brand identity, or if your craft sort of supersedes that type of labeling or identity.
Well, yes, I do think that as a fashion designer, my craft is what I want ultimately to speak for itself. Fashion is a form of expression, and it just so happens that I've relocated to Toronto, and that's where I am right now. And I'm so grateful to become a Canadian citizen. I'm so appreciative of all the things that I get to access in this country, and that has helped me as a designer, and has helped me, given me opportunities that I would not have had otherwise. I'm also really proud to be of Indian descent. Like, I was born and brought up in India, and I strongly bring that through with my design, especially with the saris and the transformation of saris into gowns. And I actually love that I can take something of my cultural upbringing and transform it into something that anybody can wear, because I know there might be a tendency for people to think that, oh, that's cultural appropriation, but no, not in the way that I present it, because I present it in such a way that you may not even know it was a sari to begin with. And so that also plays into the whole sustainable aspect of my brand, because that's so important to me. I mean, that's one aspect of how I involve sustainability in my design. But no, I don't think being based in Toronto defines my brand as in terms of like the design that comes out of it. I'm happy to be here, but ideally the big picture is to be a global design brand, and it just so happens that I got my start in Toronto.
100%. Has anyone actually ever asked you if something's been appropriative to wear? Like, has anyone reached for a gown and been like, can I wear this?
No, but I do. I mean, and this is just my opinion. I do sometimes see the hesitation in people who are not, especially when they know that it was a sari, because they hardly realize the people who are from South Asia, they will recognize the elements that make it a sari.
Mhm.
But if you're not from there, or if you're not familiar with the sari, you wouldn't even know it was a sari. So far, no one has said it, but I do see it, just a little bit of it, and then I tell them you could put it on, and why don't you try it for yourself, and then you can see what you look like, and it doesn't
Right.
even look like a sari.
Of course. And I mean, I know that you know that I believe that it's never appropriation if you're paying the person from that heritage and you're giving money back to that community and you're educating yourself on it. So buy the sari gown from Shaun because you are supporting that community directly. But thank you for that perfect answer. GRAE. Canadian musicians, I have heard, often find that success is marked by the time they spent abroad, whether they've made success in the United States or have made sales elsewhere. But as I mentioned in the start, you have 15 million streams. Amazing, phenomenal. Do you believe in these sort of markers of success? Do they ring true for you in terms of, you know, US stardom and fame, or are you happy with all of the success that you've had here as like homegrown Canadian talent?
That's a really good question. I think that those markers made sense for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, I understand where they come from. I think Canada has always had this complicated relationship with its own artists in a way. Like, we need external validation before we can celebrate someone at home. But I do think that that's shifting. I think streaming and social media has honestly changed everything. I've said before, obviously, like, you know, Spotify platforms like DSPs, Amazon Music, Apple, they've really helped to, I guess, like, globalize music, obviously. And so someone in the UK or Australia can find your song through a playlist now, and you never have to leave like where you're at. So I don't necessarily have to leave Toronto to like reach people anymore. So the idea that you have to go abroad to matter kind of feels a bit outdated to me, but I'm really proud of all the things that I've accomplished in my career, and a huge chunk of that came from people all over the world, like, stumbling across my music. So that feels like success to me, having people like come across my on their own. But you know, I grew up in Elora, Ontario, like a super small little like town, and I make music about things that I feel, you know, deeply, and it's personal to me. And if that resonates with someone in London or Los Angeles or wherever it may be in the world, like, that's incredible. And I don't need to live there to make it happen. But obviously US labels are going to have, like, you know, like, their standards on what they're looking for when it comes to artists, especially like coming from Canada and stuff. So if you want to impress a US label, like, that's a different kind of like conversation about what they're looking for. But I think you can start anywhere now and make music, and it can reach all kinds of people all over the world. And that's really cool.
That is very cool. And I have a follow-up question. Answer how as honestly as you would like, but I'm just curious. Do you feel the pressure to succumb to, you know, a TikTok trend, or to make a song, you know, clippable so that it becomes something that people are using over a fit check? Because I had the privilege of hearing you at, you know, our first Mode Canada Rocks event this year, and I felt like you're very subversive. I feel like you're going against trends, but you're so fun. You have such great energy. So I'm like, is it in your head to be like, somebody needs to make this 30-second clip, or are you just going with your passion and with your gut feeling?
My passion and my gut feeling. I will say, obviously, like, it's very normal nowadays to be a musician and feel that pressure to I can't say I haven't been in the studio and been like, what can I write today that's going to go viral on TikTok? Like, I think everyone has kind of had that moment in their career where they're trying and they're striving for that, which is really interesting because I think music should ultimately just come from your passion and what it is that you want to express and put out there in the world without feeling the need to succumb to trends and virality. And so that is something that I have definitely started to kind of push aside. I don't view my career from that lens anymore. I think it's coming from a place of honesty and truth. That matters to me over anything. So yeah.
Amazing. Perfect. That's what I prefer to hear. Like, I'm glad that still exists, that honesty and that candor and that talent, because you are extremely talented. So good. I'm happy to hear that answer.
There are so many amazing artists. Like, and I think we just need to find them and be open to finding them and listening and going to shows and stuff. I'm really passionate about that, but yeah.
Yeah, we have to keep live music alive and funded, as well as all of the arts. But we are going to get to that in the end of the interview. But I was thinking about those markers of success, and so Shaun, I wanted to ask you a bit about the success that comes with nation building. But then yesterday, you had a gown featured in the Met Gala episode of The Social, which feels like nation building because, my golly gee willikers, that is a nationwide show. And I'm very proud of you as a friend, but I also thought that was just incredible. So I'm curious, I guess, a little bit, if you wanted to speak to a little bit about, I guess, like those types of markers of success. Like, I know as artists, it's hard to seek out those opportunities, but what does nation building mean to you in that sort of vein of viewing success and, having a craft that can be featured on a nationwide TV show?
Well, thank you, Hillary. That was very kind words. No, yesterday was a really, it was like a proud moment in like this evolution of, or this journey of being an entrepreneur, being an artist. These are all small wins that help towards, at least for me, they help. They're a confidence booster because yes, as artists, we have our like passion, we have what's within us, but when you see external moments of validation like this, they help in the long run. And it was a moment of pride. Like that is one of my favorite dresses, and Andrea Baines did complete justice to the dress. She owned it. So it was also like a kind of a surreal moment because when I was watching it on TV, just to see the dress come down the stairs and on The Social, I didn't realize how happy I would. I literally screamed a little bit. It was a really sweet moment. But then it's like, here we are today, and it's like, okay, back to the drawing board. Like, what do we need? What needs to get done? I ensure that I keep myself, well, thanks to my immigrant parents, I make sure I'm humbled because they always ground me, which is great. Because being in fashion, there's that tendency. I mean, first of all, people view fashion talking about fashion, Devil Wears Prada. People view fashion through that lens of like, oh my God, it's such a glamorous life. It's such a glamorous industry. I mean, to a certain point, but really there's and actually to any industry, if you want to talk about music or like everything that is so glammed up, especially with the States, there is so much of hard work that goes into it. So when it comes to nation building, like all these moments help count towards it. I really enjoyed hearing what Grace said in that your passion really speaks volumes, and being an authenticity. I think it's so important in today's world with everything that's going around, just to be your authentic self and to believe in what you're doing, because more than the numbers, the hits, the with fashion, it's like, oh, how many units are you selling, or how much money, like bottom line, every industry, what's the bottom line? I really hope that when it comes to nation building, people can see that what we're putting into our work, like our passion, and how that affects like how it's been seen and And it comes through in our work, because if you
Mhm.
are really true to your art, to your craft, it 100% comes through in your work. So
100%. I've also heard like so many artists, I think like Cardinal Offishall or Julie Black have also said like, you know, you can win a Juno on Saturday, but you might have to go back to the recording studio on Thursday. Like it can't be
yeah.
you got the trophy and then it's over, right? And I know, Shaun, just because I know you so well, I know that you are that person who's like, okay, this was a success. It's on the vision board, but we have to, you know, move to the next thing, the next goal. How am I going to get to the Met Gala? Is probably on your vision board. So I understand that we're always moving the goalposts, which we all are as
Manifest.
Yes.
But I also wanted to ask, just because we have GRAE here and Makenzie, like both in music and singing. Shaun, I believe that you use music to keep yourself like centered and focused, right?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to tell us?
Music is a huge part of me. I love listening to different genres of music. I love educating myself with the different genres of music, because initially it was just like that one genre, and after a while, being a creative person, I started getting bored. So I started listening to different types and started enjoying different types of music. And that itself like opens up your world. And then just so much so that now with different aspects of working, I have different types of music. So it might be Latin music when I want to focus because I don't know what they're saying, but I love the rhythm. If I'm working out, it's like music that you can dance to, literally like raise a roof. But yeah, music, I love how the different arts intertwine with each other, and how we each can be inspired by one another and our different art forms. And that's like, yeah, great. Like, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you. Makenzie, I wanted to ask you about the opera and how it views, you know, nation building as it's building talents, but also being a multi-hyphenate as yourself, just as Makenzie. I'm curious, how do you view nation building in the arts and as a singer and in your own crafts and creative work?
Yeah, I think, I've actually really been thinking a lot about nation building, just looking at the state of where music is, even just like in the schools, and what's been taken away, and what's the first thing when, there's a federal budget. What is what funding is being taken? It's always the arts and the culture. And so for me, especially with some of the passion projects I do with the Morgan Project, it's important to keep the music embedded in the future of people, but also embedded in the lives of people as well. And so music to me is so much more than just the sounds and how it makes you feel. For me, music is also a source of healing. I was lucky enough to be a part of a social prescribing project where music was part of someone's healing process. And for me, I know even sometimes when I'm feeling sad or something might be going on, that music actually has the power to shift the dynamic and sort of change the trajectory of where those emotions go. And so for me, opera is very much connected to that. The stories that opera can bring, we can all relate to. We can all relate to loss. We can all relate to heartache. We can all relate to joy. Those are universal themes that I believe really bring people together. And so, even if it's keynote speaking, or if it's just workshops with groups and choirs, and helping them understand the power that is behind what we're doing. And I think sometimes we sort of forget that. We forget, like, I'm gonna sing in a group. I'm gonna sing this song, and we might think nothing of it. Yet my Iranian brothers and sisters, when they came to Canada, I have so many friends who were like, this is the first time that I can actually sing freely freely and have no one take that away from me. So when I think of opera in that way, you know, the work that we're doing, and even just, you know, my personal sort of passion projects through the Morgan Project is something that is important to me. GRAE talked about truth and talked about authenticity, and I think without that, you don't have a foundation to build. And really, when you think about a nation building, community is at the heart of any nation, any good nation. Community is there, right? And so music and opera are just some of the elements that are embedded in that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. GRAE, I wanted to ask you as well a little bit. First, I wanted to ask you about your fashion, because I found, you know, like I mentioned, your style is very unique and very interesting. And since we've got this mix of mediums here, I'm curious, who inspires your style? What are you looking for when you're putting like yourself on stage? And do you have, you know, is there like a stage persona GRAE versus, you know, who we're talking to today versus who you are with like your friends and your family, and does style play a role in that as well?
I love fashion. And to what Shaun was saying, I feel like all of these industries collide together and we all inspire one another. And it's interesting because I'm not really sure who inspires me when it comes to fashion. I just know that like I love to push the boundaries sometimes, and I've done some really crazy looks, and I've sometimes just, you know, come across pictures or on Pinterest or whatever and taken inspiration from different things and like mashed it all together. My style is always changing. I feel like I'm always into different things, new things, wanting to try different things. But I was really recently in the fall into like kind of like punk aesthetic, gothic aesthetic, like alt grunge vibes. I think that that's definitely like who I am at my core. So it's been fun to like experiment with that. But in terms of stage persona and stuff, I mean, I used to think that there was a different me on the stage versus who I am in my day-to-day life. But I think now more than ever, I'm just kind of I'm myself. So I think I just want to be myself on stage. I want to be myself everywhere, because I went through a phase where I really tried to create an alter ego, and I felt disconnected from the truth and authenticity that we all were talking about. And I think that I like lost myself for a minute there, and it was a weird time in my life. So I'm coming back around, just like I'm just me. I'm just going on stage with my guitar. I'm going to sing some songs, and I want to sing about my life and my experiences and not feel the need to hide behind anything anymore. So, yeah.
No, that's amazing. But I did mention in your bio some very, you know, like key stars, rock stars, legends that have inspired you. But I'm curious if there are any Canadian musicians that you are nostalgic for, and then how do you choose your sound that is your own, since you are so good at being, it seems, authentic? Like this conversation, I feel like authenticity has been the root of what you've brought to the table. So how do you make that sound, but who are you nostalgic for too?
There are so many amazing Canadian artists. I grew up listening to like Jan Arden, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Krisha Turner, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Right? No, I know. Yeah, like I had her CD.
Yeah, that's a throwback. I mean, go on.
Like obviously like Nelly Furtado, Avril Lavigne, Tom Cochrane, Sarah McLachlan. Like there's so many amazing artists. They may not inspire like my sound and production and stuff as much as say like 80s new wave, like The Cure and Depeche Mode, Joy Division, what have you. But I think like about making a sound that's my own, like yeah, I'm inspired by so many amazing artists. I think, you know, like influence is very natural when you're creating music, but individuality comes from truth. So I cannot like, you know, copy someone's music because I've not lived their life. So I can be very inspired by someone, but I think my perspective, like my heartbreak, my nostalgia, my memories and everything, those are all uniquely mine. So that's what makes music my own. I think, of course, like I can listen to a song and be like, oh, that's a really cool tempo, or like the emotional tone of the song, the overall like vibe, atmospheric elements, and like whatever. Like I think that those are all things that might inspire me, but like what makes a song my song, I think it just comes down to like my voice, the way I phrase things, the way that I like the lyrics that I write, and most importantly like my lived experiences. So yeah.
Amazing. No, that's perfect. Thank you. And Makenzie, I forgot that I wanted to ask you about fashion too, because we all intersect with the art and fashion. We all have to get dressed every day, but you also get to see some of the coolest costumes on stage. Are you ever inspired by like the gown of Romeo and Juliet, and you're like, I need to add more sequins to my wardrobe? Like, does that ever play a role in your day-to-day life?
You know, I think, I mean, we're very lucky at the COC. We have some of the best set designers probably on the planet. And so for me, I am more so influenced by like the hair and the makeup. I got to be honest with you. You know, depending on what the opera is, it could be set in a period piece. And so I'm not necessarily looking at it from the costume perspective. But when you see the makeup, when you see, if there's someone that right now we've got something on in Bluebeard's Castle where doors will open and people come up and they're dripped in blood, and like those things are a bit more sort of intriguing to me and sort of catch my eye. And so, but even just in terms of how fashion influences opera, especially on the stage, that's a major thing. You have to know where this period is coming from. You have to know what the intentions are. Initially, we are coming up to an inaugural indigenous-led opera, and so thinking about representation and how to authentically represent the Métis and Indigenous people, I think will be a conversation as well. So fashion absolutely plays a role, and it enhances the story. You know, when you think about any type of music, really, not just I don't think it's just segregated to opera, but when you think about any type of music, it's a story. You're a storyteller. And so what story are you trying to tell, and who is telling that story, and what you wear absolutely influences that. And so, yeah, that's I think my sort of perspective on fashion and music and opera together.
Awesome. And before I get to the last question, I want to like briefly ask about this inaugural Indigenous opera, because this is an episode about nation building. And so I would be remiss if I didn't ask, like, is there a date that we can plug so people can go see? Should I be marking something in my calendar?
You need to everybody needs to mark this in the calendar. This will be a landmark opportunity for people to see. The opera is called Empire of Wild. It's actually a book by Sherry Demeline, and the composer is Ian Couson, who is a composer up in Georgia. Both artists are from the Georgian Bay community, the Métis community. This will be happening next year, so May of 27. But you absolutely should be marking that down in your calendar. It's going to be just a wonderful, wonderful display.
Amazing. In my calendar mentally now, I will. We both know I'm going to be there. But that's so exciting. Congratulations. That's wonderful. And I was about to wrap on a question about nation building, of course, and also about the Made in Canada movement, because I think we're seeing so many people finally want to put their money where their mouth is and buy Canadian design, celebrate Canadian art, talent, music, etc. So I'm going to ask all of you, what do you hope Canadians consider, whether it's within attending the arts, engaging in fashion, or engaging in the music industry? What do you want anybody listening to take away about that sort of movement and nation building? Shaun, if you'd like to go first.
Well, I really think that I would like, and this applies to me too, because I have thought about this, a change in mindset. Because generally, I mean, with the way things have moved just in general in life, things have become cheaper when they're bought online from, I'm not going to name the brands and stuff because, no, we're not going to go there. But there's just been a cheapening of things out there, quality. And so and I'm included in this, we've just become used to like, oh, I want this so I can get it for this price from that place. And when it comes to supporting Canadian, immediately it's like, oh my God, why is it so expensive? But from this conversation that we've just had and taking from what Makenzie and GRAE just said, there's more to Made in Canada than just the price tag. It's what was put into it. It was the person who made it. It was this is all about community, the communities that helped bring that product to you, or that helped create that production, or help create this music. It has involved so many hands that have gone into making something, and all of that goes into what you're paying for. And so with the whole U.S. tariffs and President Trump, I love that what we've seen happening in Canada with people touring Canada itself, or just buying Canadian, made in Canada, like from the groceries to anything, to clothes, to jewelry. I hope people can understand that when you're buying made in Canada, it is more than just a price tag. It is, you are supporting not only that designer or that production or that musician, you are supporting so many industries, because it takes a village. And in the end, if you're supporting all these different industries, which all these industries in the end help build a nation. So it's like a full circle moment. So yeah.
100%. Makenzie, did you want to add to what you hope people take away in terms of the Made in Canada movement and supporting the arts as a whole?
Yeah, I think my biggest perspective is to support Canadian artists, support what we do, support, you shouldn't have to go to the States and then come back to be, to have a name or to make something of yourself. So for me, I would say, as a creative, even just myself, like, support the people that are here. And this Made in Canada movement, we were all a reflection of that. And so to not forget that part of it, and to actually, when you put your money where your mouth is, that also means to support the people who are here building this nation and building this country and contributing to the economy and wanting to stay. Don't push the artists out. Make the environment and make a community where they're able to thrive and to grow.
Yeah, 100%. And last but not least, GRAE, what do you think in terms of the Made in Canada movement and enjoying live music and supporting you? And as well, I would also add, because I know some people are like, streams are not the only way to support, because sometimes that really gets distilled into pennies. So if you wanted to add better ways that we can be supporting live music in Canada.
I think it's more important now than ever to support live music in Canada. I think going out to shows and supporting local bands and artists is so important. I love to go to shows. And I think, Shaun and Makenzie brought up some really, really good points. I feel like they said it all so beautifully. But I don't know. I think that I love to support local, and like when I have designs that are created for me, like I work with a Toronto designer because I also am, I don't love to shop in like those cheap sites that we're not going to name and stuff like that, because there's so much amazing talent here. And yeah, it's interesting because like I know some people will say that they can't afford to go see a live local band for $15 to $30, but then, they'll spend $600 to $1,000 to see Taylor Swift. So like, not to stir the pot, but like, I just think that like
Stir it, girl. Stir it.
I just think that it's like really important to support Canadian artists all around. I don't know what else to say and how much to express that. I just, yes. And also streaming, like if you're going to go to a show, try your hardest to like buy the merch of the band, because a lot of the time like artists aren't even making money off of the ticket sales, or like and streams, like that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, it's basically pennies.
Yeah, it's like 0.003 cents a stream. So yeah, and a lot of people don't know that.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it is crazy, but I think like buying physical media is like a really cool thing now. Like a lot of people are actually getting into that now. Like people want like cassettes and vinyls and CDs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool, but just getting out. And I agree, like with Makenzie, like you should not have to go to the States to make a name for yourself for people to take you seriously here. I think that we need to really nurture what it is that we have here and allow it to grow and support it as much as possible. And I think we're seeing a bit more of that now, which is good. The community is everything. Like for a while there, I wasn't sure. I didn't really see much community. I actually saw a lot of people like kind of going against like a competition more than anything, especially in my industry. But I think everyone's kind of realizing we need to work together.
I feel like if any good thing has come out of the Made in Canada movement and all of these tariffs, it is the uniting of Canada, going back to, especially because like after COVID, going to the arts, supporting opera, supporting theater, supporting concerts, and buying a nice dress to dress up for it. So you can support all three people that are on this episode and call it a nice night out.
Yeah, it's so true. I know. But once again, like sometimes it comes down to just like financial things as well. Like people feel, and that's like a really real conversation too. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Like economically speaking as well. Like I'm not here trying to tell people like buy my merch and like everything, because like I understand that it's difficult. But I think if you can choose where you're spending your money, and if you do have the opportunity to, try to spend it on good things that are worthwhile and support real people with real lives that are in our own country, you know?
Yeah, amazing. You all gave us so much to think about, so much to take pause, so many places to consider to spend our income if we have any that is of disposable. But I want to thank all three of you so much for your time today, Makenzie, Shaun, and GRAE. I believe I've already said how people can go and support, so I hope people check you all out and support however they can, if they can. And join us next week, May 13th, here on YouTube and Instagram, as we explore multiculturalism, a powerhouse. We will be with Juno winner Naomi Cowan, Project Runway Canada winner Leland Mitchell, and Juana Hermida, who is the artist liaison of Lula Lounge. It is a stacked episode, and we will see you there next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Hillary. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, GRAE. Bye,
Take care.
Makenzie.
Bye-bye.